It was good. It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today I want to talk about Christian Wood and these Dallas Mavericks. Yo, it's really cool to see teams make moves. For some of y'all probably enjoyed the regular season, watching all the games, going into the playoffs and all that stuff. For me, as a basketball head, I think I've always enjoyed the off season more. Watching teams make moves, position themselves, construct their roster, make adjustments to their front office, coaching. That's where I get probably the most excitement. And so right now, I'm like a friggin' kid on Christmas. I'm looking at the draft, I'm looking at free agency, and to see the Dallas Mavericks make this type of a move, um, yo, I'm ecstatic about it. I'm excited about what they're about to do next season. But I'm about to dive into that in this video. Smash the like button for me if you enjoy it. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. You know the drill. It helps with the algorithms, and I appreciate all the support, truly. Christian Wood. There are some players who, it's kind of like a really kind of overused statement. Good player on a bad team, usually indicating that this guy is not this good when it comes to actually playing for a team that's trying to win, because a lot of how this guy plays is either selfish or works against the team's better interest to be able to win the game. And there are a lot of players out there like this. However, there are certain aspects to a player's game that you can observe to say this player is a good player on a bad team, or this is just a good player who happens to be on a bad team, right? And I think that Christian Wood lands in the former, that he's a good player who landed not necessarily on a bad team, because when he first got there, he was there to team up with James Harden. Remember, he was there to be a key piece for a championship run. And I actually think if James Harden had actually played and given it his heart, I think they would have been back in the Western Conference Finals, or at least the semifinals. Because Christian Wood, he was ascending at that point. His run in New Orleans gave us plenty of glimpses of the potential that he had in terms of talent as a three-level scorer, athletic big with length, ability to defend the rim, operate in the pick and roll, pick and pop type game, and even some shot creation and post play. A lot of the critiques that teams had about him coming out of college, out of UNLV, I believe it was, he was able to combat all of that. But something that we have to really take into account to understand Christian Wood as a player is that he's got one of the biggest chips on his shoulder an NBA player can have. He was not just overlooked coming out of college, but he was not just devalued either. He was basically, they looked at him like people who don't really support Chet Holmgren. How they look at Chet, that's how they looked at Christian Wood. Where they were like, you're too skinny, and so whatever we see from you here in college, we don't believe, because we don't believe it'll translate, right? Coming in out of high school, Christian Wood was an elite talent. He was dominating most of his competition. He gets into college. I think he has a rough kind of freshman year, not too rough, but like didn't exactly like blow people out the water. Had a lot of critiques from front office people going into the draft, and so he stayed, I believe, for his sophomore season, where he put up about 20 and 10. Showed that he could rebound, showed that he had the toughness, showed that he had the physicality to be able to translate his skills, and yet he was still overlooked. He was still diminished. And so he had to go the long way. I believe he went undrafted and had to go the long route, going through the G League, right? Going into all these workouts, having to fight and claw every inch to be able to get into the NBA. And when he did, there was absolutely nobody who was going to stop him. There was absolutely nobody whom he was scared of, intimidated by. He saw every opposition as an opportunity to show what he can do, to prove everyone wrong. I mean, it's really kind of the chip that you almost want an elite player to have, where the drive that pushes them, that propels them to perform consistently at a high level is so embedded within them that you don't have to worry about how they're going to show up, if they're going to show up. You know that when the bright lights are on, they see it as their chance to prove something. And Christian Wood did just that. In New Orleans, he was able to shoot from the three-point line, even though initially when he got there, they just kind of wanted him to be like this like energy role player guy, which he did to the fullest degree. He was almost kind of like a Pascal Siakam type player early on. And yet each year he was getting better. And by the time he went to Houston, it was like, okay, this guy's ready. Now, even though James Harden kind of mailed it in, Christian Wood continued to show that he was a legitimate NBA player. He was actually also talked about being a potential all-star before I believe he had like an injury mid-season around the all-star break time. And so he didn't get that opportunity to play in an all-star game, or really, I'm not sure if he was even on the ballot. But people were definitely talking about him because of how he was performing. And then James Harden leaves. You see the youth movement. You see Kevin Porter Jr. become the starting point guard. And Christian Wood begins to mail it in, because you have to understand, for a guy with that big of a chip, to not be able to compete is something that eats at you. And for some guys, how they respond to that is by checking out, is by saying, I can't show up here trying to give 150%. And I got guys that even at their 150% don't have the experience, the knowledge, the know-how to actually help us to compete. And so I think he began to mail it in a little bit, especially in the first half of the season where there was some locker room issues. But then toward the second half of the season, I think there was some sort of agreement between him and Houston, like, look, I want to get out of here, which I think is what also precipitated the Dallas Mavericks to be able to take advantage of this situation by saying, hey, we're going to throw you a bunch of, salary dumps and role players, guys who, good, veteran guys, like Sterling Brown and Trey Burke, and guys who can come in there, Boban Marjanovic, who can come in there and be great locker room guys and leaders, and guys who can, show these younger players how to acclimate to the NBA, win in the NBA. But really nobody that was going to impact their ability to win. And so right now, when you look at the Dallas Mavericks team, this Dallas Mavericks team is set up for a run. And when I say a run, I mean a legitimate championship run. Why do I say that? You have two things that they're going to be adding to this team next season. Three things. One, they have Western Conference Finals pedigree, experience. They know what it feels like to get there. They know what it feels like to play against a champion in the playoffs, against the Golden State Warriors. They understand how the defensive schemes are going to shift and change. They understand the nerves that they're going to have to get out of their system. They understand the intensity. They now have the mental preparation for a run. Secondly, they're bringing in the confidence that comes with playing at a high level in the playoffs. What Jalen Brunson did cannot be dismissed or undervalued. He is somebody who you can look at and say, this guy could get me 20 points a game in the playoffs. This guy could be a number 2 option in the playoffs. And that's huge. Because the reality is Jalen Brunson is probably not who you want as your second option in the playoffs. He's probably your third or fourth option on a championship team. But this leads me to number 3. They're bringing back and they're bringing in a second and third option. Tim Hardaway Jr., Christian Wood are going to be added to this roster. Now, we all know Tim Hardaway Jr. was already there, but he was injured on the back end of the season and was not able to play in the playoffs. He's another guy, 18 to 25 points a game, athletic wing who can defend, right? His ability to score adds another dimension to this team that brings depth, and most importantly, it takes a huge load off of Luka. Now, when you add in a Christian Wood, who I believe is going to be their number 2 option, undoubtedly, they are going to have balance. And when I say balance, I mean the ability to take advantage of how a defense is presenting an opportunity to be able to score. Not only can Christian Wood shoot from the 3-point line more than efficiently, all right, he's also a threat to attack off the dribble and score in the post and in the pick and roll. He's not only able to do that, but he can, I'm not going to say he can facilitate, but he can make the correct read. When a double team comes, if a double team comes, he can make the appropriate kick out on his drives and post ups or on his short rolls to the rim. Now, why this is so important? Because in the playoffs, what a team wants to do is take away one of your options, one of your main assets on your offense. Now, teams know by now that they can't take away Luka. That's not happening. They know they can make it extremely hard for him by loading up on him. And in this point, this is where you need guys who you can depend upon. Now, Maxi Kleber had a solid run. Jalen Brunson had a great run. Dinwiddie as well. But you need somebody in that front court who can begin to take the attention of a Draymond Green, take the attention of a help big defender that puts a wing defender like Andrew Wiggins or Mikal Bridges on an island that they can't help off of. And this is where Christian Wood is going to do most of his work, playing off of Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic. His ability to score at all 3 levels and in so many different situations creates a situation where teams are going to have to pick their poison. They're going to have to literally decide how they're going to get beat offensively. Who is going to be the guy to beat them? And it's no longer, can Maxi Kleber beat us? It's, can Christian Wood beat you? The 20 points a game scorer who can score at all 3 levels. The guy who has the athleticism and the skill to beat just about any big man off the dribble. I mean, I've seen Christian Wood take it to Anthony Davis, healthy Anthony Davis. I've seen him take it to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I've seen him take it to Joel Embiid, right? The defensive big men that you generally tend to say they should be able to slow this guy down against Bam Adebayo. I've seen Christian Wood take it to them, drop 25 points in a game, be able to get whatever he wanted on the inside. And no matter how tough you tried to make it for him, he was able to match that toughness. Now, what I don't necessarily see Christian Wood becoming an all-star next year. Some people have suggested this. But I don't think it's going to be an all-star type year. I think it's going to be the type of year where you see a team that just looks strong. Almost like how the Phoenix Suns looked this year, where you didn't necessarily see one player having this tremendous, amazing season. Even though Luka is kind of due for that type of season to make an MVP run, I think you're going to see solid stats on really good efficiency. But you're going to see, more than anything, team efficiency. Their offense and defensive efficiency as a team should be through the roof. And with a head coach like Jason Kidd able to get great buy-in from his players, I see Christian Wood coming right in and buying in, especially on the defensive end. His 7'4" wingspan and athleticism and timing to be able to block shots, I think is going to be something that Jason Kidd is just going to love. But he's also going to demand that he performs that way each night. That he takes a page out of Luka Doncic's book from this past season and say, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of offense so that I can show up more on defense. So that I can do the little things like run the floor and transition to get back on D. Or I'm going to make this extra rotation. I'm going to close out. I'm going to move my feet a little bit more and give this second effort coming off of this on-ball screen. Right? Those are the little things that add up and that help guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, who are going to carry much of the load, and Reggie Bullock, much of the load on defense. Now, how they reintegrate someone like Tim Hardaway Jr., right? Are they going to start him and bring Reggie Bullock off the bench? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they stay with the similar lineup that they had this past season, where they have Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock starting around Luka and Jalen Brunson, right? And then Christian Wood at center. But with the depth that they now have with Maxi Kleber, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s return, Spencer Dinwiddie, and even guys like Josh Green, who had moments, who showed a lot of promise with his athleticism and defense and his emerging three-point shot. Frank Ntilikina, who's improved as a player under Jason Kidd, right? They now have a solid amount of depth where they're going to be able to push teams with their bench unit. And once again, the greatest benefit of this is going to be in Luka Doncic's longevity, his ability to play tough defense, and also not have to play 35 to 40 minutes a game for them to have a chance to win. And so when I see this Dallas Mavericks team, I see a team that is positioning themselves to take that next step. Now, are they going to win a championship? Look, for me, championships are about, for me, if I'm going to throw out rough percentages, they're about 50 to 60% talent, about 30% availability and health, and then another 20% luck. How you match up, who you match up against in the first round, second round, third round, right, is going to play into how much energy you got by the time you got to the championship round. Remember, Boston having to go through Brooklyn, that emotional energy to face Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, right? Then to have to go through Milwaukee and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Then have to go through Miami, who, even though they may not have been as talented offensively, beat the hell out of them defensively. And then showing up against the Warriors, they were gassed. By game 3, they were gassed. And the Warriors knew it. Now the Warriors not having to see Phoenix, being able to go through a Dallas Mavericks team who was shorthanded, didn't have Tim Hardaway Jr., and they hadn't been there before to the Western Conference Finals. The Memphis Grizzlies, who are young and haven't been there before in the semifinals. And then in the first round, I'm trying to think who they faced. I can't even remember who they faced. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, I think it was the Denver Nuggets, who didn't have Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. So it's like being able to get away with those types of early rounds, right, that allowed them to preserve energy, to be able to get more rest. When they got to the finals, they just had more in the gas tank. They had far more in the gas tank than the Boston Celtics did. And so there's a luck factor, right? You have to make sure you don't get hurt. You don't have injuries, or the injuries aren't that bad and you can push through it, right? And so what Dallas is going to do next year, I see for sure a Western Conference semifinals run. They're going to have to contend with teams like the Denver Nuggets, who are going to be healthy, the Clippers, who are going to be back, the Lakers. Hopefully they figure out a way to retool. You're still going to have the Phoenix Suns if they bring back DeAndre Ayton. If they don't, I think Phoenix is going to fall off. But there's going to be other teams. The New Orleans Pelicans with Zion coming back, right? These guys are going to be hungry. Portland is going to be back. Utah is going to figure something out, right? It's not going to be the cakewalk. And I call this a cakewalk because teams without experience is a bit of a cakewalk, because you know how to manage it. You know how to get over that, right? Then who else also? Team that just slipped my mind. The Memphis Grizzlies are going to be back, right? And so it's going to be a lot tougher next year. But I think Dallas is going to be able to get to that Western Conference Finals. And then from that point, they're going to have to hope for some luck. But let me know what you think. I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be able to get to the NBA Finals with this new roster. What do you think of the additions of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s return and Christian Wood, and the experience factor that's going to play in? What do you think that their ceiling is? Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please smash the like button. It helps with the algorithms. I appreciate all the support. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'm going to holler at y'all next time. Peace.